everyone, my name is Chastity Ray. I'm 29 years old and I was a November bride. If you were a bride this year, you understand how real it got with inflation, with is the pandemic still going on? All of these venues and vendors are trying to make their money back from the last 2 years. There's also brides who were supposed to get married or did something small in the last 2 years. So they actually had their big weddings this year. So finding a venue was also chaotic. Yeah, it got real this year. And while I do want to share my wedding story and also some of my dream moments, I think I need to be real and talk about how much my wedding actually cost. Because as I started looking at YouTube videos when I was planning my wedding, I'll be honest, there were weddings about budget, how to stay on budget, but it was all DIY. And I am not the DIY queen. Like, it's not me. I can't do it. And plus, all the people that are in my family that are DIY queens or kings, they're miles and miles away from me. So I knew that I would have to rely on vendors and also rely on other sites, which we'll get into, to be able to bring my wedding to life. So I'm gonna be honest, my budget, I went over it. Like, if you're looking to stay in budget, you might want to find a different video. But no, I'm going to talk about how I went over my budget and also some of the things that I could have cut out to be able to make my budget. Now that the wedding is actually over, I can kind of see what I probably could have left out. So I want to talk about those things that I thought I needed, but I actually didn't need it. So we'll start off with how much everything costs. I'll give ranges because I don't have receipts or anything. I just, from my recollection, have an understanding of how much I paid for everything. And then we'll talk about some of the things that I could have lived without, or I probably could have had less of, and it wouldn't have made a difference to me or my guests. So the first thing I got was my venue. And I know I watched some videos about, like, don't get your venue until you know your budget. But I felt like my venue was the biggest thing. And once I had a date in mind, I could move forward with everything else. So I personally found my venue first, and that worked for me. I had an understanding of how much it would cost, how many guests I could invite, and also what I need to get that was extra outside of my venue. Now, my venue ranged from $20,000 to $30,000. It did include alcohol, open bar. It also included tables, chairs, which I'll get to a little bit later because I didn't use all of their tables and chairs. And also, it includes a venue. That venue included a ballroom, a courtyard, and a sunroom. So our guests were able to maneuver between all three rooms, and we were able to utilize the space in the way that we wanted to. I'll talk more about like logistics in another video of how everything turned out, how I did it. But in this video, just as far as costs, our venue ranged from $20,000 to $30,000. Now, that doesn't include a lot of things. $20,000 to $30,000. I think there were some things that could have been included. And I'll talk about that. I keep saying that, but I'll get to it. This is my first YouTube video. I don't really know what I'm doing. I just decided to make the video because I've always loved YouTube, but I wanted to create an authentic space, and this is such a great time in my life, but also a transitioning time in my life. I just got married. We just bought a home. I mean, there's so many different things that I just really want to kind of document my journey. And, you know, if there's others that want to follow along in this journey with me, subscribe, leave a comment. If you are a November bride, or if you're a bride of 2022 or even next year, or you were a bride, tell me your experiences. What are some of the things that you could have cut out, or you probably wanted more of? Let me know your experiences because I think other brides want to hear that. So the next thing I got outside of my venue was my dress. I personally got my dress early because I really wanted to understand what was the vibe, what type of wedding did I want to have, and what was the theme. So I found my dress to be able to help me to define what my theme would be. I got my dress at Town and Country in St. Charles, or on St. Charles in New Orleans, and it was an experience. I'm the type of person, I don't want to go to 5 or 6, 7 stores. I knew that when I walked in there, I was walking out with a dress. I definitely did not plan on going anywhere else. And yeah, I went in there, I tried on the first dress, and the first dress was my dress. I had already decided that I was going to say yes to the dress. But my mom and my mother-in-law were with me, and so I definitely wanted to make sure I gave them that experience of me trying on multiple and then voting and all of that. I tried on 3 or 4 dresses, and in my mind, I literally told my person who was helping me the entire time, I know that this is my dress. And she's like, why do you keep trying on dresses? Tell them yes. So finally, by the 3rd or 4th dress, I told them, look guys, I know the other dress is it. I want to try it on again, and I'm gonna say yes to the dress. So that's what I did. I knew it was the dress. It was so beautiful. It was like an ivory goldish color. If I can include a picture, I will somewhere. I don't know how to edit yet, so we'll see. But it was just beautiful. It was mermaid style, but it definitely was classy in the front, and it made me feel sexy. It made me feel like a woman. So I definitely loved it, and I knew that that was the dress. I also purchased the veil from there just because I knew I wasn't gonna go shop around for a veil. So my veil and dress, I would say, range between $3,000 and $4,000. Like I said, I don't know the exact cost, but it was around that amount. As you can see, between the dress and the venue, I'm already close to where my budget was. So yeah, and we still got a long way to go. So the other things that I got were invitations, of course. My invitations were about $300 to $400. It was a total fail. It was a nightmare. I might do a horror story about it, but I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, they were $300 to $400, and I ordered around 130 invitations. They were pretty. I actually have them here, and I probably should have pulled one, but it's basically kind of a gold foil, and it was ivory paper, and I think they came out perfect. So my invitations were about $300 to $400. Then I started ordering things off of Etsy. And I know I talked about no DIY because I'm not a DIY queen. I leaned on the DIY queen and kings. Like, I leaned on them, which most of these people are on Etsy. And I will say, literally, Etsy was what, not even just Etsy, the platform. Yes, love Etsy. But the people that I worked with through Etsy were literally one of the most key parts of my wedding. The personalized things that I got made my wedding so special. I had koozies, I had cups, I had napkins, I mean, literally anything you can personalize, I got it. And I'll be honest, some of those things I didn't necessarily need. I don't regret those though, because they gave my wedding a touch that was only really about us. And I just think it made it so beautiful. And I just really appreciate every vendor that I work with. I'll try to link some of their shops, Etsy shops, in the box below. But I will tell you, read reviews, make sure you're doing your research before you choose a vendor. That's what I did. I relied on other comments, other reviews and pictures, and I did not regret anything that I got from Etsy. Some of the things where the color was off a little bit, so definitely look at pictures. If you want me to do like an Etsy haul of everything I got from Etsy for my wedding, please let me know. It was a lifesaver, and it literally was such a nice touch that people talk about all the things I got from Etsy today. So everything I got from Etsy, I would say range between $300 to $600 for all that personalized stuff. And I got bulks of things. So definitely I would say utilize Etsy as much as possible and read the reviews. The other item that I got was kind of some specialized, personalized signs. So we had 2 beautiful gold signs that we purchased one for the sunroom and one for the courtyard. Those two signs were personalized, and I believe this person had an Etsy, but I ended up finding them on Instagram, and that ranged between $150 to $200 for both signs. And also, I think I also got a couple other things from her, like a bar sign and a reserve sign. So I'll just say from that person alone, I probably paid about $350 for signs, you know, bar menu sign, personalized signs. And I'll talk a little bit more about signs because let me talk about it now because I may forget. I don't necessarily think I needed those signs to say what they said. So it said like, welcome to our wedding and our names and the date of our wedding. And then one said happily ever after and our names and the date of our wedding. And while that is so beautiful, it had such a nice touch. I wish I would have said something more generic so that we can use it for Christmas parties. I'm having a Christmas party and I'm gonna film it. Excited about that. But I wish I would have got signs that were more generic so that I could utilize them for more family events or more things that we have at our home. And I'm gonna use them, but I definitely think that I didn't necessarily need it to say wedding. And it didn't necessarily have to be specific to that day. It could have had our last names, or, you know, it could have just said something more generic. So if you're thinking about getting signs, think about potentially getting something that you can repurpose in the future. Also, I did things for my bridesmaids throughout the process. That cost, I'm not gonna consider that wedding cost. That's like lanyard cost that I could probably talk about in a future video, but I did do things for my bridesmaids along the way. They did things for me as well. I had the best group of girls. I mean, I had no issues. So yeah, I did, you know, along the way, there were some expenses that came that I didn't foresee, but they came. And so I would take all my lanyard things, like just random things that I had to get from Walgreens or CVS, meaning like printing pictures or getting the disposable cameras for people to use. All those lanyard things, I feel like I spent probably $300 to $400 on random things like that. What else? What else? We talked about the dress. For my shoes, I actually used the same shoes for each event. That was my something old. So I wore them for my bachelorette, my bridal party. I wore them for our rehearsal dinner, and I also wore them at our wedding. It was my something old, so I didn't necessarily splurge on shoes at all. Like I was like, no, like these are the shoes. I love them and I'm gonna keep them. I'm gonna stick beside them. And so my shoes, and actually my shoes were only like $40 to $50. I got them from ASOS. They were one of the dupes, the Amina dupes, and I love them. No issues with them, and I'll still be rocking them. So I definitely think I saved there. Where I've splurged other places, I definitely saved there. So I'm gonna talk about some of the decorations. This is where shit hit the fan. This is where my money just started. It was going. I'm saying mine, but our money, you know, it's not just me. Like, I'm just the one talking. Florist. The florist was so sweet. She was so awesome. She was a Black-owned business, and she did such an amazing job, but it cost. It cost. Like, that was the bill that I got that I was like, oh no, like, let's cancel the wedding. Like, the wedding is over. That's it. It's canceled. Our quote for our floral, which included tables, we had some that had kind of bigger, more fancier arrangements than others, but tables, the bridal party's table, our sweetheart table, and of course all the guests. Plus we had the fedora, what is that thing called? I don't know. The arch that we got married underneath, that also we have flowers there. We have flowers in the waterfall, all of that. And I say all of that, it really wasn't a lot to me in my mind. But I respect the craft, and I have, like, this has nothing to do with the craft and the art of floral. I'm just telling you, it was expensive. So that quote was about, and I know that one probably by heart, it was about $14,000. And the biggest part that made me kind of regret, made me regret a little bit is I felt so wasteful. After the wedding, all the flowers get picked up. They got put in our room because we actually got married at a hotel. They got put in our room the next morning. We couldn't take all those flowers with us. So we took some, and then I gave the rest away to some of the people that worked at the hotel. They were grateful for it. I don't know what they plan to do with it. Also saw another lady that was getting married. She grabbed some of my flowers. Like, I just tried to give as many of the flowers away as possible because I felt so wasteful that $14,000 was only used for 4 hours and then technically was set to be thrown away the next day. I did research, and I do know that there are some places that you can donate flowers to after your wedding. So please look into that if you have, the bandwidth or time or capacity. I know it's a lot going on as a bride, but look into it because it definitely made me feel some type of way. I felt wasteful in that moment, and I don't know, God's been just too good to me for me to be wasteful. So that part was just like, okay, no, I don't know how I feel about it. Plus, I feel like my guests, and every guest and group is different. My guests, when I got the phone calls later, while they thought the flowers were beautiful, that wasn't really the main thing that they were really impressed by. They were impressed by the personalized thing, the food flowing, the premium alcohol, and the DJ. Like, that was more of what was important to my guests. So I don't know. I feel like you probably could do floral, and if you're not DIY, like you're trying to actually get a vendor, probably figure out where you can kind of do candle treatments instead of doing floral everywhere. I don't think it was necessary, and I don't think it fully added to my guest experience. Definitely added to the overall aesthetic of my wedding, but it didn't change how my guests viewed their experience or how I even viewed it. The other one, I'll be more quick because I feel like I'm rambling, but my DJ was about $2,000. He was amazing. He was great. Like, had the party going. We had a videographer that was about $2,000, and our photographer was about $4,000. So between those, I would say I spent about $10,000 between DJ, photographer, and $8,000 to $10,000 between DJ, photographer, and videographer. And I will say all three of those services were needed. I probably could have shopped around a little bit more, but like I said, this year, everyone went up on their prices. Like, I did shop around, but I also wanted to have good quality, and I also wanted to go with people that other people said did a great job. And so I spent more because I wanted less stress on the day of, and I felt like that was important. That was important to me. So yeah, I don't know what total number we're at right now, but definitely I think overall, some of the things that I paid for, definitely, I probably wouldn't have paid that 2 years ago, unfortunately, 2 or 3 years ago. So the other item is the chairs and linen and kind of like the not decorations, but the chargers. So all of that ranged between, I think, $1,300 to $2,000 for linen, chairs, and chargers. I got those from 2 separate vendors, but I'm just lumping them together since all of that's the entire experience. What else? We already talked about the lanyard things. I think that's it. The hotel that we stayed at, while I spent all of that money that I told you guys about in the beginning, we actually still had to pay for our rooms, which I thought that should have been included. But overall, they did give us one honeymoon night, but we stayed there a night before. We both had to have separate rooms, or we wanted separate rooms. So yeah, that was something that I felt like they should have definitely included it. The total price should have included at least the bride and groom's rooms. The other item is makeup. My makeup artist was bomb. She was so great. She did such a great job. My makeup artist, I want to say it was like $150 for me, and then I paid for all of my girls. That was kind of my gift to them. And I can make more videos, but my gift to my girls, one of their gifts was makeup. get their makeup done for free. And so total, I paid about $950 for makeup, but I saved on hair. One of my bridesmaids and a good friend of mine who's a hairstylist for the stars actually did my hair. And so, I mean, I paid them in love. Like, they love me, so I paid them in love. What else? I think that's it. There may be a couple things that I'm forgetting, you know, that, let me think. Oh, the most important part, y'all, the coordinator. Now, I paid probably the least for my coordinator than most of the other venues, but a day of coordinator is the most important part of your wedding. I cannot say that, like, I would have rather paid what I paid my florist to my day of coordinator, because she single-handedly took the stress, all the stress that was on me, and literally grabbed it and said, hey, I got it. Like, literally grabbed it. And I am so grateful for her. I started with her a couple months before my wedding, but we didn't actually get into the thick of it until probably a month before my wedding. I sent her all my vendors. She put together a timeline that literally everyone talks about today, that my wedding started at 6 o'clock. My invitation said 6 o'clock and my wedding started at 6 o'clock. I was walking down the aisle at 6:07. So that part was really, really important for me. And if you don't have a party planner, I will say I didn't have one. I was my own party planner per se, meaning finding my own vendors, my own design and things like that, which I saved there. But if you don't have one, you do need a day of coordinator, whether it's someone you get from a vendor or someone in your family. I think a day of coordinator makes an entire difference in the whole experience. She built my timeline. She got my bridal party, my entire wedding party in order. She got my family in order. I mean, the vendors in order. She made sure everything was set up, and all I had to do was sit pretty, get dressed, and go marry my husband. The day of coordinator was the most important, I think, in my mind, vendor that I chose. And it's honestly, it wasn't that expensive compared to some of the other things that I paid for. I would say, I know I throw out a lot of numbers and I'm probably gonna get the math wrong, but I would say between all of that, I think we spent about $65,000 on our wedding. Do I regret it? No. Would I do it again? The marriage, yes. The wedding, I don't know. I would do it again, but I would definitely take a couple of those things off my list. Some of those vendors, I definitely shop around a little bit more, or try to talk about what are the things that I can live without, because there was so much that I could have lived without. So if you're like me, I would say don't regret anything. I know I was throwing that word around, but I don't regret it. It was the wedding of my dreams. We budgeted for it, and we were able to pay for it, and not have to charge credit cards, anything like that. We really were blessed. So I'm just thankful for God that He provided His provision. But at the same time, I definitely know that there were some things that I could have lived without. My top things would be managing my floral budget, definitely thinking about some of the signs and, how do I repurpose those for future use, and also finding a venue that offers more as part of your package. And I would also say just keeping in mind that there's just going to be random costs that you accrue along the way, and making sure that you budget for that. Do I think that things will get better as far as, how much things cost? I have no idea, but I will say if you are a bride, start planning now. Like if you're getting married next year or the year after, start saving, budgeting. Not saying that you would spend what I spent. It might seem completely ridiculous to you, but I didn't go into this thinking that's what I would spend. It definitely just happened along the way, and I was just really blessed to be able to finish it out and be able to get to the finish line without being stressed about that. But definitely keep that in mind, that I know some people have put like they got married and they were able to do everything for $2,000. And I definitely think it's possible. I just didn't have technically that vision in mind of me doing everything myself. And also I didn't know how to pull it off that way, right? I didn't feel like I had the skills to be able to do those type of things. So I paid for those services. And I think either way is okay. But in a world where I feel like we need to be more mindful, more conscious of what we spend, I definitely think it's something that you should consider thinking about before you go into it. It is costly to have a wedding. So however you decide to get married, I think is totally beautiful at your home, at the Justice of the Peace, at a actual venue or ceremony, wherever you decide. The most important part about your wedding is you, your husband or wife, and God. Nothing else truly matters. So if you have any questions for me, any comments, leave them below. Let me know some of the things that you paid for that you probably could have saved on. And also, let's encourage each other. If you are an upcoming bride, what are some of the things that you may be worried about, some of the things you're excited about, and what do you want to see from me? I want to put out some wedding content, but it's also Christmas. So I do want to share some holiday videos with you guys. I have a Christmas party coming up at the end of the month. I also am juggling this new lifestyle of being a wife, being a homeowner, also being a person that's very, very motivated. I work a full-time career. I'm a project manager. And also I'm very family oriented. So spending time with my family is so, so important. So I feel like this is a part of my life that I want to document. I want to share, not share too much, but I want to share. So if you're interested in following my journey, I will be uploading twice a week and potentially a little bit more in December just because there's more going on. But my goal is to upload twice a week. And also I will be in the comments chatting with you, whether you're a bride or just a person interested in this video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, leave them below. Bye guys.